everyone. My name is Yukta Srija from batch 2 of team 4 and our topic is elements of objects in JavaScript. First, JavaScript objects. Objects are collections of properties. Generally in our life we can see an example. We all use objects like laptop and some other etc. In laptop it is an object and it has some properties like memory, CPU as well as JavaScript is an object based language. Here languages, all languages uses object. Objects are collections of properties and it represent real entities, and every property contains data types and key value. As we know, data properties are considered as two categories: primitive and non-primitive. Here non-primitive are the objects, and subprograms are called through objects are called methods. Subprograms not called through objects are called functions. As function is a set of instructions that perform a task on its own that doesn't depend on object. But method also a set of instructions that are associated with an object which are contained in a class. It implicitly passes the object on which it is called. As in function, data passed to a function is explicit. And the object is the ancestor through prototype inheritance of all objects in JavaScript program. Object has no data properties but several method properties. JavaScript has some other points. JavaScript has object. A JavaScript object is an entity having properties and methods, as we know. For example, math, date, keyboard, monitor, etc. And also browser creates objects. For example, these are model of documents, web page, window object, screen object. Like you can also create your own objects. And there are objects corresponding to the three data primitives: number, string, boolean. In next slides we can explain in detail. These wrap a single value and provide some methods. One method all three wrapper objects have is value of returns the corresponding primitive value of an object. Like this is also an one method. Like next you can also say an example which create an object with new. When we give a new, it creates a new object. Boolean as object corresponding to three data primitives. They are boolean, number, string. First boolean. Boolean has no useful methods of its own, as it just defines the condition true or false. That's it. Number has formatting methods. For example, to exponential, to precision, to fixed. First, to exponential. It converts a value of the object into an exponential notation with the requested digits after the decimal point. Like example, here given 10,000. If we apply to exponential with the bracket 1, it is just after decimal point it converted into a document exponential notation. It converted to exponential notation. To precision. It formats a number to specified length. It defines the if we given number 13.37 and if we given to precision of 2. Sorry if example is not available. If we given to precision of 2, it just gives the answer result 13. It just defines the length. It gives the length. Next, to fixed. It converts the number to a string and it rounds the string to a specified number of decimals. For example, let number given 5.567 sum. In our childhood, we all do some mathematical calculations, which we round the figure into small value. Like this, we can use 2 fixed. If we given 5.567 of 2 fixed of 2, the decimal point rounds to number 2 after decimal point. It just gives 5.57. Now string. String has many methods. Many are the same as per Java string object. Now here we have some examples: index of, caret, substring, etc. First, index of. Index of method runs the position of the first occurrence of the value in a string. This method returns -1. If this method returns just value 1 if the value is not found. For example, we given the text hello world, and we are searching for the alphabet A, but in hello world we don't have letter A, so it gives the result -1. If we want the letter L, it gives the first occurrence like 3. Next, caret method. This method returns the character at a specified index position in a string. This letter it just gives the specified index string. Here we gives the length, and then it gives the result in which according to the specified index what character is there, it gives the result. As example, let text equal to hello world. In hello world we give the text caret of 1. First letter is E. The index of a character is E, like, and substring, etc. are further examples. And JavaScript does many automatic conversions between primitives and objectives. In previous example could be written I am big and bold given, and for output we are asking it's the statement should become big and bold. It gives the result as which in this case the variable st is automatically converted to a string object to make the first method call, and the resulting string is then converted to a string object to call bold. Now we go through interview questions. What is the prototype object in JavaScript and how it is used? JavaScript is a prototype based language. So whenever we create a function in JavaScript engine adds a prototype property inside a function. Prototype property is basically an object where we can attach methods and properties in a prototype object. And next question. Explain how to write class methods versus instance methods. Instance methods can access class variable and class methods directly. Class methods can access class variable and class methods directly. Class variable can't access instance variable or instance methods directly. They must use an object reference. Next question. Why asynchronous code important in JavaScript? Asynchronous programming makes it possible to express waiting for long-running actions without freezing the program during these actions. JavaScript environments typically implement this style of programming using callbacks functions that are called when the actions complete. Hope all of you understand all the about objects of introduction of objects. Thank you.
Hi guys, I will continue with these other built-in objects. We have many built-in objects like arrays, math object, date object, and string object. We have seen some of them. We have seen some of them already. Here we can see math and date object. and how they are used and functionality of these objects. And this math object is a built-in object like Java math we already seen. And for this math object we doesn't need any instance because all constants and methods under this math object is already referenced through this math. We have many constants and methods based on this math. We have constants like pi and square root function. When we want to access this pi and square root value, normally we will use value. We will define the value of pi equal to 3.14, but here we will use math object for to get this pi function and square root function also. And we have some method functions like trigonometric functions and we can manipulate the numbers also. And we have used many calculational methods like if we want to use trigonometric functions under this math function, we have some sine function, cos function and tan function, etc. And we can manipulate the numbers based on our need. We have many manipulation functions like floor function, step function, and we want to minimize the function or maximize the function. Or we also get the rounded decimal function. And when we want to get the power of the function, we will use this math function and like math dot power. And when we want exponential function, we will use math dot exponential. When we want some random function in a list, then we will use math dot random like Java. This is like list in Python. If we want to access any element in the middle, we want to use this math dot random function. And this date is another built-in object. We will use this variable date equal to new date, which will give us output like 21 March 2022. This is what it gives when we use this date for date object. And we also get a full year like 2022, and month like March, and day and hours at this time, at this instance like 6:46 minutes 56 seconds. Like because we have getx and setx methods in date functions, and this date returns as a string because formatting methods generally returns the date as a string. When we want to change this a string to Greenwich Meridian time, that is 5:30 plus 5:30, we will use 2GMT string, which converts the string according to Greenwich time. And like that, we have two string and two local string. Local string, etc. These are the built-in objects. And we have now seen arrays. And in JavaScript, arrays are the special type of object, and arrays can hold more than one value of same variable. We will use arrays because it can hold more values in a single variable. So this is the reason why we are going to use arrays. And this array can hold many values under single name. We can access these values of the array by referencing to an index number like 0, array of 0, array of 1. In arrays, these index number starts from 0 and goes on until n-1. And in JavaScript arrays, it actually looks like Java arrays and is indexed with square brackets. And we can use JavaScript arrays are also as objects, because JavaScript variables can be used as objects, and arrays are also special type of objects. Because of this, we can have the variables of different types in the same array. In arrays as object, we can use variables of different types in the same array. We can access different types of values. We can type that is different types of variables like int function and string function in the same array. Like we can see 1, 2, 3 are in string form and 4 is in int form. Generally, we can't use in array. We can't use different type of variables in single array. But when we use these arrays as objects, we can also use this array arrays of different types, because we will say generally array as a collection of same data type elements which we stored in continuous memory location. But here we will collect different type of variables here. The real strength of the JavaScript arrays are built-in properties, and here we will use these braces, and here we use a square brackets. Both are different. Please keep a note on it, because here we use new array, but here we don't use any other name here, because here the array can be created with array literal. That is, we can use here with square brackets, and no need of use of any braces here. And the different data types can be mixed here. Array elements can be accessed as in JavaScript is same as in Java. We can access it through index new array of 0 and new array of 1. We can go through it until new array of n minus 1. Arrays can be multidimensional. The main strength of the JavaScript arrays, yes, it have many built-in properties, like we can directly get length of the array. When we use it dot length, then it directly gives the length of the array, and the size of the arrays are not fixed. We can give array size more than what we want also. Here in this example, new array of 5, here we will assign 5 size to it array, but we have not at all used any array. Then the space is wasted. Here only we have given only single value, but we have given 100 size. The remaining 99 size is wasted. So we have used the dynamic arrays based on our need. These arrays can be static arrays or dynamic arrays. Static arrays, and we have many properties of arrays here. Here we have given a length of list 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. When we want to have slice, that means when we want to have it height that array within 1 comma 3 minus 1, then it gives 4 comma 6 array of 4 comma 6, and we can concatenate it also. Concatenation means it adds one array to the other array. That means last element first element of second array becomes the n plus 1th element in the first array. We can when we concatenate this 12 to this list, then it becomes 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. We can join it, creates a string. That means it is all the elements in the array is separated by commas, that means specified delimiter. Here it gives, when we use list.join, it gives string 2 semicolon 4 semicolon 6 semicolon and so on. When we use reverse, it reverses the order of elements. That is, lower order elements comes to last element, and higher order elements come to first element. When we use sort, it arranges in ascending order. When we want to push or pop any element, if we push an element, then it adds element at the higher order element, that is last element, and pop the element. Last element will be popped means deleted. And unshift and shift operators, it can add and delete elements at the beginning and pop elements have numeric indices like array and string. But when we want to have non-numeric indices, then this array is known as hash function, also called as hash. In this example, my hash of me is me. Me is not an numeric indices; it is non-numeric indices. Then this function is known as uh, hash function, and same like my hash of you, that is assigned to student is assigned to my hash of you, and in this function for my variable I in my hash means in this function when we want my hash of me, then it returns instructor, and when we want my hash of you, then it gives student. Okay, now we see interview questions. What is the JavaScript naming convention? Actually, variables and function names generally written in naming camel case. That means it contains spaces like that. Variable names cannot contain spaces, must begin with letter and underscore. It can contain only letters, numbers and underscore. When we use JavaScript naming convention, it deletes all these spaces and other than underscore or letters or numbers, it deletes all these functions. This is why we use JavaScript naming convention. And what is the scope variable in JavaScript? The scope variable generally defines the region of your program. That means until which space this program is going to be used. That means we have two types. One is for global variable, which is defined anywhere in our JavaScript. How to achieve inheritance in JavaScript? Actually, JavaScript inheritance is done through prototypes. Here we don't do anything with a class keyboard, but you make functions that use it as construction to build new objects. Here we have done nothing with class keyboard, but we have done only functions use it to build new objects. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Navish. I'm going to discuss a topic in JavaScript called functions. A JavaScript function is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. A JavaScript function is executed when something invokes or calls it. There exist several types of JavaScript functions. The JavaScript function is defined with a function keyword followed by name and followed by parentheses. The function name can contain vectors, digits, underscores, and also dollar signs. The parentheses may include parameters which are separated by commas. Parameters follow the parentheses. No parameter types are required. It means we can use any type of parameter. And with parameters, if there are no parameters declared, then we can use only parentheses. and the body of the function is written in the brackets itself. That is curly braces. We should write the code in curly braces, and function will terminate executing if the function needs a return or a curly braces or end curly braces. Consider an example. You can see here, according to the syntax which is given in the function in JavaScript, greet is a function name which is followed by the function keyword, and in the parentheses we have given two parameters, hover and mean, and these are of different types. If you see, hover is an integer and mean is a string. The execution starts from here and it terminates after it sees written. The code inside function call will execute when something invokes function. It happens in three ways. When an event occurs, that is when the user clicks a button, or when it is invoked from JavaScript code, or self-invocation, that is, it invokes itself. As I said before, when JavaScript reaches within statement, function is not executed. So why do we use functions in JavaScript? We can use the code. That is, if we define the code once, we may use it many times. We can use the same code many times with different arguments, which results in producing different results. A function may or may not return a value. If no value is returned explicitly from the function, the undefined value is returned by default. So you could test by using this thing, using this code. This is given here. Function used like Java methods. They can be used in calculations, data checking, any process to do more than once or want to isolate. A function definition should precede calls to the function. To guarantee it is loaded before being called, an arrow mark usually placed in head section. Functions include parameters. They can be of two types. Variables which are declared within a Java function are set to be local variables. That is, formal parameters and actual parameters. So formal parameters are also called as local variables. So these local variables are the only accessed within the function itself. That is, only we can access the variables within the function itself. Whereas the global variables can be used at anywhere in the code, the program. All the local variables must be declared with var, or else a global variable will be used. So for defining a local variable in a function, we must use a keyword called as var before defining the local variable. Otherwise, the global variable with the same name will be used. Data types of arguments are not checked, just converted as needed. Usually JavaScript functions uses pass by value parameter passing method. In JavaScript, all function arguments are always passed by value. It means that the JavaScript copies the values of variables into function arguments. Any changes that you make to the argument inside the function do not reflect the passing variables outside the function. In other words, the changes made to the arguments are not reflected outside the function. Primitives are passed by value. So, primitives are the atomic pieces of data. Objects are passed by reference. So, if you consider objects, objects are passed by reference. So, reference values are objects that might consist of multiple values. The value is changed in the function has no effect at the calling side. Whereas objects, if you take objects, changing the objects in the function changes the caller's object. Number of arguments passed to a function is not checked against the number of formal parameters of the called function. That is, if you consider this example, if you define a function f which consists of arguments a, b, c, and if you call it by f of p, q, here c will be undefined when f executes. That is, it consists of 3 arguments, but only called by using p and q. So c will be undefined. However, a property array named arguments hold all of the actual parameters, whether or not there are more of them than there are formal parameters. If we go for interview questions, first one, how to empty an array in JavaScript? Substituting with a new array. Array equals, this is the fastest one, square bracket. Setting length of to 0. That is, array dot length will be a function. If we set that to 0, then the array length will be 0, so that array will be empty. Splice the whole array. If you use this function, you can empty an array. So how to convert, second one, how to convert JSON object to string using the JavaScript function JSON dot stringify to convert it to a string. Constant myJSON equals JSON dot stringify of object. So it is the example. So for converting JSON objects to string, and the difference between double equals and triple equal to operator. So double equal to operator converts the variable values to the same type before performing comparison. So while comparison of two elements or objects, so it should be of same type. This is called as type coercion. Triple equal to does not do any type of conversion or coercion and returns true only if both values and types are identical for both the two variables being compared. That's it, guys. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Tushara from batch 2. User-defined objects, creation and modification. Well, what is user-defined object? Just as the name says, user-defined objects are objects created by the user in a program or an application. Usually, it contains of data types like strings, numbers, and booleans. There are two ways to construct an object in JavaScript. The object literal, which uses curly braces. 2. The object constructor, which uses the new keyword. The new expression is used to create an object. This includes a call to the constructor method. A new operator creates a blank object. The constructor creates and initializes all the properties of the object. Properties of user-defined object. It can be accessed by a dot notation. Example, object.property. A property is an association between the name and the value within an object. An object may be thought as a map, dictionary, associative storage. The number of properties of an object may vary dynamically in JS. Properties can be added or deleted from an object during any time of the present. Here we can see an example of the user-defined objects with dynamic properties. Next is the foreign loop. Foreign loop is basically a control statement that allows you to loop through the properties of an object. Here we can see the syntax. The loop lets the identifier take on each property in turn in the object. The above is an example of the for loop. Here prop is being called again. Next is functions. Functions are first in objects, as they can have properties and methods just like any other object. The major difference between them and the function is that functions can be called. Functions may therefore be assigned to variables and to object properties. Object properties that have function values are the methods of the object. Here we can see an example of the functions. Next is the constructor. Constructor is a block of codes similar to the method. When it is called, an instance of class is created. At the time of calling the constructor, memory for the object is allocated in the memory. Constructors are functions that uses the keywords. Object methods are properties that refer to point to functions. A function is be used as a method may use the keyword. This is to refer to the object for which it is been acting. As in Java, the JavaScript user-defined objects can be quite powerful and quite complicated. We won't really need to use them for form verification. Interview questions. First one, what is an immediate invoked function in JavaScript? An immediately invoked functions expression is a way to execute functions immediately as soon as they are created. IIFs are very useful and they are a simple way to isolate variables declaration. Second question, what is this keyword? What its value? This is a keyword in JavaScript that is the property of an execution context. Its main use is in functions and constructors. Third question, explain higher order functions in JavaScript. A higher order function is a function that accepts functions as primitives and returns a function. This presentation is done by Batch 2 of Team 4, DVS Praveen, Adarsh, Yukta Srija and Tushara Priya. Thank you.